This is 757 Saturday Sports Talk. Here are Matt Hatfield and Coach Ed Young.
And welcome back to the program. We have a special guest with us here on 757 Saturday Sports Talk. He is the Hall of Famer. You see him all the time on ESPN. He's been on SportsCenter, Baseball Tonight, ESPN.com, ESPN Radio, and he's in the Baseball Hall of Fame. Our good pal and friend, Tim Kurkjian. Tim, good to see you. Happy holidays. How's life treating you?
Good. I've been up since 4 o'clock in the morning putting up the Christmas decorations this morning.
Oh, goodness.
I drag a lot of things out of the basement, but when it comes to skillfully setting things up, not very good at that. I know where everything goes, but I have to bring my wife, Kathy, in to make things look really good. I know they go in the right place. I know big boxes go over here. And I can lift, but I have no skill, and that goes for just about everything in the world.
Well, see, Ed ends up hiring some neighborhood kid and gives him like $10, $15 to do it. And then with my house, I find stuff in the shed, in the closet that I didn't even know I still had. Is that the case for you at all?
Yeah, don't start me on this, please. Our garage, our basement, it's like Fred Sanford lives in our house. The house is spectacularly beautiful, except certain areas of it are a little bit cluttered, and we're working on that this offseason also. But at least I know where all the Christmas stuff is. It's easy to get to.
Tim, you got it. Your wife won't let you, and I don't have a wife here, so I can do it. I leave mine. I have nothing on outside. I don't put decorations up outside. Inside, I leave it up year round. So that way, July 9th, if I want to be in a Christmas mood, I am. And of course, it's December. I want to be in the Christmas mood. It's there. I just leave it up. I ain't got to worry about it. I got to put it away. Just make sure you clean it. But most wives will not allow Christmas decorations year round because they want to see everything change. And you got to keep putting different decorations of every holiday season up. That would drive me nuts.
Well, I'll never get away with that. I put it up, I take it down, and everything in between, my wife takes care of it because she's really good at this.
Well, let's dive into the baseball, Tim. The season has completed. There's been some deals. There's plenty more deals to come. Is it right now for everybody, yourself included, all the different baseball analysts, experts, fans, is it all just the waiting game for Juan Soto, or is it more than just that for you and others, do you feel right now?
Well, it's more than that, but this is obviously the biggest story of the free agent season. Juan Soto is 26 years old. He has over 200 home runs. He's played in 2 World Series, winning one of them. He is a generational hitter, and he's going to get more money potentially than anyone in the history of team sports. I mean, he might go over $700 million with the deal he's going to get. That's what we're kind of all waiting for. Now, that doesn't mean once he signs, then it's just the floodgates are open and everybody else signs. But usually when the biggest domino goes, others follow. So I fully expect a very robust market, but it's got to start with Soto. And let's hope for everyone's sake we get this going really before the winter meeting starts Sunday night, Monday, because that's what the winter meetings is supposed to be about. Tremendous activity where baseball controls the landscape for 3 or 4 days, and a bunch of really fun signings and trades is what the winter meetings is all about.
We know how Ed feels about this. He wants them back in pinstripes so they can return to the World Series and get the outcome that they prefer as opposed to losing to the Dodgers. Would you, Tim, be surprised if he doesn't play somewhere in New York, be it for the Yankees or Mets, and B, people have said out loud that they feel like if the Dodgers somehow got him, it would be bad for baseball, given all the talent they have with Shohei Ohtani, Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman, just got Blake Snell. Do you feel if the Dodgers got him, it would be not great for the sport?
I don't think they're going to get him. And yes, I think it would be unhealthy. I think that's the only term I can find if they were to sign Juan Soto. But I don't think that's going to happen. And I think, and again, we're all guessing at this point because the Dodgers, the Red Sox, the Blue Jays, the Yankees and the Mets are in on this. It just seems logical that he will go to one of the 2 New York teams. Now, that doesn't mean he's going there because the one thing we've all learned from free agency is there's nothing certain. When Albert Pujols signed with the Angels, like the entire sporting world like slapped their forehead because nobody saw that coming. Anything is possible when you get to this point, but around 700 million, there are only a few teams that can afford that.
So true, Ed.
Tim, the Soto has just dominated the whole baseball landscape since almost from the last month of the season all the way up to now. And it will continue, as you said, until he signs. I read how all the pundits are talking, how the media is swaying things a certain way. I'm being a gigantic Yankee fan. I'm on a couple Yankee groups chat. And the feeling is, look, we're not spending $600-700 million on this guy. We can take that money and get 3-4 other guys. How do you assess that with the team like the Yankees? Is it better to get the generational talent, Soto, and you're going to pay him money because prices are going up all from 5 years from now, somebody will be getting $800 million. So, or do you go get 2-3 guys to fill in and now you have a better chance of winning your World Series?
Yeah, that's a great question, Ed. And it's something we debate every year about this time. When somebody is up for a huge contract, would you be better off going to get a third baseman and a first baseman and a starting pitcher instead of just Juan Soto? But the other side of that is you can't always go for quantity over quality. And there are very few players in baseball history of a higher quality of a hitter than Juan Soto. And you saw, Ed, what happened to that Yankee lineup. The second he showed up, it's like every guy looked at him and said, well, that's what a great at-bat looks like. And he did it every single time he stepped into the box. So there is no doubt the Yankees really need him back. However, if he does say go to the Mets, yes, the Yankees will just pivot and say, okay, with the money that we were going to spend, how can we go get a starting pitcher? How can we go get, a third baseman or a second baseman or a first baseman or another outfielder? There are needs there if Juan Soto were to leave, and the Yankees would have a lot of money to deal with.
And I agree that you're going to have to pay Soto the money. And it's over lifetime of a contract, so to speak, 10, 11 years, whatever. And baseball you'll get more money. The revenue will come in more. So you'll have the money later. But it is that idea of, look, this kid is very talented. He's only 26. I think you got to sign him, and then you better have a little bit extra money because the Yankees, I keep saying Yankees because we have holes. I like to see Jazz moved over back to second and bring in a third baseman. Of course, we need a first baseman too, but I do feel you got to get Soto. And I don't even look at, well, how does Soto fit in with the Mets? And come on, the Red Sox, seriously? But I got to believe that it is, as Matt said, it's going to be he thinks one of the two New York teams. I kind of do too. But I'm not counting out the Red Sox. As you mentioned, Pujols going to the Angels. Everybody's like, where did that come from? So you feel that, especially with maybe Boros as his agent, don't count it out until we see what really happens.
Right, absolutely. And when Scott Boras is the agent, he is, as he always is, as most agents are, determined to set all sorts of records and be able to tell everyone, I got the biggest contract of all time for Juan Soto. And that's where the Mets, really come in more than anyone else. But let's say the Red Sox were to pay him this. And my guess is at the moment they're not going to go that high. Imagine what he would do to that lineup, and imagine how excited Red Sox fans would be and how excited Soto would be to go to a team with that kind of rich tradition, especially in the last 20 or so years. So it's a fascinating discussion. There's so many different ways to go on this. The entire industry is waiting for Soto to make up his mind.
Yeah, just intensify that rivalry between Yankees and Red Sox if we went to Boston, Ed.
Well, I'm still keeping the fingers crossed it's the Yankees. And then somebody asked me the other day, well, okay, you're a Yankee fan. Let's say he doesn't go there. He's going to either go Mets or Red Sox. Who would you want him to go to? My first reaction was, well, the Mets, so we don't have to face them as much. But it is another New York situation. But the thing that gets me most, Tim, out of this, and maybe this can never be fixed, why is the free agency drawn out so long? Can Major League Baseball put a rule in somehow that says by December 1st, or the winter meetings, the 5th of December, put a date in there and say, we got to have these guys signed? I kind of think that Soto knows where he wants to go. And it's not just the money where I think Burroughs' mind is, hey, look, this you may never come across this again. We're going to get you the most money because wherever you go, they're going to be good. But can baseball do something about when the signings have to occur so we can get on?
Yeah, we've discussed this before, Ed, and it's not an easy situation. A lot of people say once the winter meetings end, December the 15th, all trades need to be done, all signings need to be done until spring training. But that's just, there are too many free agents out there. There are too many players looking for jobs, and there are too many executives who will go through whatever it takes to make sure they get the right player. So it makes a lot of sense. But I don't see it as being realistic that you can set a date sometime in December and say, if you don't get your guy signed by this date, that's it. I don't see that happening, but I just hope, as I said, that all or most of the action comes during the winter meetings in Dallas when all the media is there and baseball like completely controls 4 days during the football season, which is hard to do. So I just hope for the game's sake that we go there and there's a lot of action.
If you got a question for Tim Kurkjian, you can send it to us on our Cova Sports TV YouTube channel, on Instagram, Facebook, all over the web. We've got one from Jim on IG who wants to know what his Orioles are going to do. Tim, it was a disappointing finish in the playoffs for them. They've made it the last 2 years, but did not advance as they got knocked out by Kansas City this year and got knocked out by the eventual champion Texas Rangers the year before. What can the Orioles do in a division where all we're talking about right now is Yankees, Red Sox, and could Soto end up with one of those two?
Yeah, the Orioles need to do some work here. Look, they have a very good team. They're going to go to the playoffs next year, I believe, if they don't do anything. But they have to do something with their starting pitching. All the injuries that they suffered last year, John Means, Kyle Bradish, just 5 or 6 guys went down. They have to re-sign Corbin Burns or somebody of that ilk. And I'm not sure they certainly have a shot at getting Corbin Burns back because he was so good for them. He enjoyed it there, and they enjoyed him so much. But a lot of other teams are out there for Corbin Burns. So, and the way the Orioles swung the bat late in the season and in the postseason was a bit of a red flag. And if they lose Anthony Santander, which is certainly possible because he's going to get $100 million from someone, they're going to need another bat to go with a team that was a little short at the end of last year. So the Orioles have some work to do, but they still have a bunch of prospects to deal. They still have a lot of money to deal with because they have a new owner that is determined to make this team better. But Orioles have some work to do, no doubt.
Another question I want to throw up here before I let Ed jump back in with, and I'm sure address the golden at bat situation that's being discussed, Tim, is Rodney in Chesapeake wants to know, is there a pitcher on the market that you could see shifting the landscape? I guess he means be a starter or reliever that could put a team from good to contention to great, maybe a favorite. Is there a pitcher out there that you could see swing things?
Yeah, I think Corbin Burns is that guy who we just mentioned. He's that good. He's a Cy Young candidate every year. He has overpowering stuff. He throws a cutter in the upper 90s that nobody can hit. So he's the number one guy for me still. But Max Fried also makes an awful lot of sense for a lot of teams. He pitched a game clincher in the World Series. He's a really smart guy. He's got a great curveball. And even though he's had some injury issues, I think he's a difference maker also. I think he can take a contender and turn them into a champion. And I think he's close to good enough to taking a non-contender and making him a contender. So every team needs starting pitching these days, and those are just the two guys that I look at first and foremost and say, those are the difference makers.
A few more minutes with the Hall of Famer Tim Kurkjian. You see him all the time and hear him all the time with ESPN television, radio. Also check out his podcast he does with his son. Tim Kurkjian, our guest here on 757 Saturday Sports Talk on Cova Sports TV, and we'll let Tim tell you how you can find that podcast as well before we let him run. Ed.
Also, Tim, last year at this time we had you on, we talked about the rule changes. I was not big on the shift. They've outlawed the shift. I think you don't mess with strategy. That's up to the managers. And like I said, teach the doggone guys how to hit to the opposite field or bunt the doggone ball. Now there's talk, and I don't think it's happening anytime soon,
I hate
holding that bat. I know Matt hates it. I'm laughing at it because I haven't totally grasped it. it just seems to me to be funny. It would be something you would see in the Saturday morning cartoon. This dude's coming back to bat anyways, even though he just struck out. Is it possible down the line we'll see that? And anything else that may come up? And then also, you being the expert you are, what rule changes should be happening?
Well, I don't see the golden at bat rule being adopted, certainly anytime soon. At least I hope not. Look, fellas, this is the best game ever. And one of the reasons it's the best game is the 25th, 26th man on the team can determine who wins the game tonight. He can get the game-winning hit with 2 outs in the 9th inning, the last guy on the bench. And I love basketball, don't get me wrong, but LeBron, Steph Curry, Michael, Larry, they always take the last shot. The game is always in their hands to determine the game, which I understand that kind of star power, but one of the great beauties of baseball is the great players don't decide every single game. They don't get to come up in the biggest situation every night. So I would be very surprised if the golden at-bat rule came in anytime soon, because it really messes with the fabric of the sport. As for what rule changes may come in, I mean, we're getting closer and closer to having an automated strike zone. We're going to have in the next few years, I guess, some sort of challenge system where a player can say, no, that pitch was a ball or that pitch was a strike. And they can challenge it during the course of a game. We still need to, study that in the minor leagues. It's getting some momentum. I think it's going to be here in a few years, but I would be careful messing with the game too much. I'm a tired old little man, and I don't like to mess with a game that has been so beautiful for 150 years.
I'm so glad you said that, Tim, because I saw Roger Clemens' tweet where he said, hypothetical, you have bases loaded, no outs, and Ohtani is up. You strike him out. Then they can just use this rule to let him stay up, and I have to face him again. It felt like, and I know you were, I think with me, I don't want to speak for you, when they put the ghost runner on second base in extra innings, I thought that was a disadvantage for relief pitchers, much like you would have if you played overtime football and you played the defense with 9 guys against 11 on offense. I felt like it was a disadvantage to them. You do this, it just puts the pitchers at another disadvantage, doesn't it?
Yes, and I'm not in favor of the ghost runner either. I'm in the minority on that. I'm really surprised how many people in the game think it's a great idea. I'm sorry. I don't see it that way. And with the time that we've cut on major league games with the time clock, which is great. If we cut 30 minutes out for the course of a game, maybe we can play a real extra inning until somebody actually scores a run the way. Some of the greatest games I've ever seen have been 14, 15, 18, 20 inning games. And yes, it taxes the players, but it's okay. They're the greatest players of all time. They should be able to stay out there until we determine a winner without using a ghost runner.
Absolutely. Hey, tell the folks, and we'll finish up with you here too. You are the host with your son of Great Game or What podcast. How can they check it out and all the stuff you'll be doing here in the off season?
Yeah, it's all over anywhere you get your podcast, Facebook, Spotify, all these places. I'm the worst of all time in telling people how to find it because I can't even find it myself. But I can tell you this, my son Jeff and I have a blast doing this. We laugh and we learn. That's all we do. No heavy lifting, no hot takes. We had a bunch of really good information and a bunch of laughs this year. And we do it instead of once a week during the off season. We're doing every 2 weeks. And on Tuesday, we have the best of our first year on the podcast with the best of all the interviews that we did. The best of Jim Palmer, Johnny Bench, Aaron Boone, Cal Ripken, Tito Francona. We had some marvelous guests, delightful guests, and that will be on Tuesday. That'll be my favorite episode of the year.
That's tremendous. And I know greatgameorwhat.com is the website, greatgameorwhat.com. Some Orioles fans actually commented to me. They love the Jim Palmer interview. Saw a snippet, I think, on your Twitter X page. So check it out. Don't feel bad, Tim, though, because Ed half the time can't figure out how to get our podcast out there. He asked me to send him the link and he can send it to people because he don't know how to find it half the time. So
yeah. Tim, I'm with you. I don't just get me on it. Don't let me touch no buttons or whatever. Matt's the technical guy. The younger dude should know that already. My generation was something else. So I have no problem with that. I'm in the same boat with you. But I also want to throw this out. One of the greatest books to
go.
read. Okay. Tim Kurkjian, fascinated. I'm fascinated by Sacrifice Flies. Timmy, other than this book, what other books do you have that people got to get? I've read this a couple times already. Each time I read it, I learn something different. Your love for the game is nobody else has it. And that's what really draws me to it.
Well, the book before that one is called "Is This a Great Game or What?" which is the same name as our podcast. This comes directly from my father. He used to say things like that. So it's the name of our podcast. It's the name of my second book. My first book is called America's Game, which is an interactive book with all sorts of cool stuff in it, supplied by the Hall of Fame. So I have 3 books. Hopefully I'll write 3 more before I'm done, but I got to get through this off season first. We got to get Soto signed before you can look anywhere else.
Well, Tim, it's going to be busy for you in these winter meetings. I hope the Yankees sign Soto, find us third baseman, get us a first baseman, make a couple good trades. Let's go win what we should have won the World Series, because everybody knows the Yankees are the greatest franchise in baseball.
Yeah. Well, hey, Tim, thank you so much.
Go ahead. Good luck, Ed, and good luck, Matt. Thanks for having me this morning.
Absolutely. Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and Happy New Year to you.
You too. Thanks.
We'll have you again, Tim, as always, and we really appreciate you giving us this time.
Happy holidays to you and everybody else. Take care.
Thank you, Tim. That is the one only Tim Kurkjian, the ESPN Major League Baseball analyst and host of Great Game or What podcast, Hall of Famer with us on the program. We will take a timeout. We've got NFL picks coming your way soon. We'll give you some final